Even genetics is left a quiet front in this war, because whole generations of crop plants will be ruined by genetic manipulation. There shall be a day when the trees bear no fruit, and the skies bear no rain. Even people who were born with certain traits will be euthanized like weeds. The masses, growing ever more materialistic, will begin making superficial choices regarding their mating partners, which results in the altering of the very gene pool of the human race. Eventually, will come war in the Middle East and East Asia. The Middle East and the Far East will serve as the major theaters in the coming World War. This global conflict will likely be initiated as a smaller war between America and her allies and rogue states like North Korea and Iran. Israel herself may engage Iran, while the South and North Koreas finally take to war. These smaller conflicts will soon draw in all the other world powers, namely China and Russia. Proposals involving the weaponization of space will be expensive, wasteful, and may further incite tensions between the superpowers. The Western nations will naturally side with America, and, although I'm not sure of Russia's role, China's role will surely be adversarial to America in the coming World War. This World War will crush the human spirit and will play a major role in the masses' acceptance of global government. Even though the deliberately spoiled environment and the phony global warming crisis will continue to empower global government, in truth, only a devastating war could justify the dissolving of nations. This war is not likely to have a clear winner, but instead will exhaust all the parties involved, the superpowers in particular. Such is its purpose. In the midst of devastation, and at the height of despair, the human race will finally submit to a single authority. Most things related in this chapter are compiled from numerous satanic and occultic sources, both obscure and well-known. You don't have to believe the things written here, simply believe that many in the occult believe them. A recurring theme in mythology and the occult is the concept of a god or goddess having multiple aspects, similar to how your guardian angel, guardian demon, and spirit are three aspects of you. One of those aspects is good and pure, another is dark and selfish, and your fleshly manifestation is another aspect of you that stands between the two. Yahweh. This is the Most High God, Jehovah, the God of Israel. He is also Zeus, Jupiter, Osiris, Jove, and Ahura Mazda. He is the Archon Emperor, the King of Heaven, and the Father of the Elohim. He is said to be the true father of the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael, and, before his fall, Sataniel. Satan, although in some accounts, is in fact Yahweh's brother. These sons of God were commonly equated with the children of Jehovah. Zeus is also said to have plenty of offspring. Modern-day Satanists often remark that Satan successfully stole Yahweh's quote-unquote creative power, and this belief has fueled much use of phallic symbolism. The planet is dotted with obelisks, like the Washington Monument, which are merely phallic symbols which represent the creative principle that Satan now possesses. It is the fire Prometheus stole from the gods. The act of stealing Jehovah's creative principle, however, also resulted in the discontinuance of the birth of new angels, now a race whose numbers are forever in decline. It is also remarked that Jehovah transformed his children, the archangels, into new kinds of beings when they were young. God exists outside of creation, and when God desires to drop down into the lower realms, such as heavens or earth, he is often described as no longer all-knowing, but instead capable of being deceived. Jehovah is frequently depicted as an aging old man whose love for humans exceeds his love for the race he spawned, the angels. Osiris, too, is said to have reclaimed all his parts except his phallus. It was the Archangel Michael and his army who expelled Satan, his uncle or brother, from heaven. Satan and the other expelled angels were cast into the black void in the universe, now called Hell. Before Satan's banishment, Jehovah allegedly assigned Satan as his favored son and second in command, with Archangel Michael as third in command. Michael is said to have gray-colored hair, beard, and eyes. It is also alleged that Archangel Michael spoke to Satan before his fall, attempting to dissuade him from his ambition, which was to seize the throne of God himself. Archangel Gabriel is said to be the angel responsible for destroying the Nephilim race with a flood. Gabriel is thought to be the swiftest of the angels and used as a messenger, who sits on the left side of God's throne. He is often associated with a metal cutting instrument which he uses as a weapon to strike down the enemies of God. Some have suggested that Gabriel at some point lost the favor of God, but was redeemed. It has also been remarked about Gabriel that it was he, at the behest of God, that confused the languages and divided man into his many current sub-races. Islam and the Prophet Muhammad are said to have been guided by the teachings of Archangel Gabriel. It was the duty of Archangel Raphael to bind Azazel, or Lucifer, and cast him from the Garden of Eden and quote-unquote into darkness. Raphael's physical description is one of a handsome youth, arrayed in purple robes. It is said that Raphael is among the gentlest of the spirits, especially compared to the other archangels. Frequently equated with Osiris, Jesus Christ is often spoken of as a demon hunter and civilizer, with the story of Osiris predating the story of Jesus Christ by more than 1,000 years. How does one reconcile the timelines? It is, for me, easy. I suspect that most of the events described in the Bible refer to a far earlier date than commonly thought. I am absolutely certain that this is the case in regards to the Bible's Old Testament, whose pre-Diluvian accounts are probably that of Atlantis. Proof of this fact lies in the many unoriginal stories contained in the Bible, stories which appear to be nothing more than retellings of earlier mythological accounts. Although Christians claim that Jesus is the Son of God and made a noble sacrifice for mankind, they often have trouble describing the nature of the sacrifice. Members of the occult, however, have convinced me that this sacrifice was quite real, and Jesus did indeed take an incredible risk for us, in that his fate was not certain, and his soul was up for grabs. So noble was this act, whatever it was, that he was found quote-unquote perfect before the gods. Since the true nature of this sacrifice has been removed from the Bible, and since members of the occult only spoke on the matter with guarded tongues, all I can truly tell you is that it was quite selfless and has nothing to do with dying on a cross. Satan promised those in hell much spoils after Jesus' death, but instead, Jesus released many spirits who were bound in prison. These spirits rejoiced and turned against those who had tormented them in hell. Satan apparently lost control of entire realms because of this. If you recall, Jesus rose from the dead and into heaven 3 days after he was killed. But during those 3 days he was dead, he apparently fell into the underworld and started trouble for Satan there too. A vague mention of this event occurs in the Bible. In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 18, we read, "For Christ also hath once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put into death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit, by which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison, which sometime were disobedient, when once the long suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls were saved by water. I have long heard Satanists make reference to the time when Jesus descended into the prison of spirits after his death, but I thought it was just more of their hero and villain swapping that they're so good at. Everyone knows Jesus went up, not down. But then I was directed to this Bible verse, which shook my view regarding the nature of his sacrifice. The goddess Lilith is associated with a host of other goddesses, including Hecate, Astarte, Isis, Sekhmet, Virgo, Venus, Ishtar, Inanna, Aradia, Davsina, Selene, Diana, Az, Babylon, Kali, Tiamat, Al-Uzza, and Gaia. Although this goddess is mostly associated with the moon, she is said to both have good and bad aspects, and true to that logic, she is often spoke of as Lilith, who was consumed or possessed by a much more ancient goddess named Tiamat, as if Lilith is now the body that Tiamat walks in. Lilith is the feminine principle personified. Tiamat is said to be the most ancient of God's enemies, long before the fall of Lucifer, and she spawned a race of wicked giants and demons. In Babylonian legend, Tiamat was called the Monster of Chaos, and waged war against the gods. Finally, Marduk defeated Tiamat, split her in two, and used her flesh to create the universe. This battle between the angels and the older gods goes unmentioned in the biblical Genesis account, but remains in the Greek tradition. According to Greek mythology, Zeus, along with his brothers Poseidon and Hades, defeated the older gods, called the Titans, and banished them to Tartarus, the Greek underworld. These Titans, who were the offspring of Gaia, once ruled the earth, their brutish nature corrupting and spoiling the planet. This race of Titans even attempted to make slaves and sport out of the angelic race, but Jehovah and Satan cast down the Titans. It is also worth mentioning that Prometheus sided with Zeus and the other Olympians in the War of the Titans. Although the Greek mythology does not mention it, eventually a flaming rock was hurled to the earth from space, killing this race of terrible beasts and casting their souls into Tartarus. It is important to bear in mind that there were 2 wars or desertions in heaven. The first was between the angels and the spawn of Tiamat, and the second heavenly conflict was between Satan's angels and Jehovah's angels. The only trace of this event in the Genesis account is subtle and easily overlooked. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, we read, "And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." Replenish the earth is certainly interesting wording for a universe that was supposedly only a week old. I'm inclined to believe that these 7 quote-unquote days of creation were instead phases as opposed to literal 24-hour periods. There are more scientific traces of a beastly race who were destroyed by a large falling rock, and this race we call the dinosaurs. Perhaps these monsters of the past aren't the bumbling creatures we take them for, but an intelligent and powerful race that once